Hello everyone, Bertina Amy here, and welcome to my channel. In today's video, I thought I would do a DIY Cancer Dragon Junk Journal page spread 1. So prior to recording the rest of this video, I made some time during the week and decided to create tea-dyed pages off camera, and here they are already dried, and I'm just tearing off the edges because I didn't want anything to be pristine. And I knew that for my page spreads, I would need 4 of these because of how wide and how wide the actual book and pages are going to be. So I estimated about 4 total per page spread and go ahead and tear them down and glue them down. I tried to categorize them based on how covered it was by the tea dye and how dark it was. So I tried to match them as best as I could, and I did that an additional 12 more times off camera. Alright, so really quick, I just wanted to share because I'm sure people are going to wonder about it. I actually have my nails done. I also got this bracelet that was made for me, but in any case, there was this event I went to, and it's a cancer wellness center, and they do things for people who have ever been impacted by cancer. So, it was very, very nice. It was a pampering day, and so I even got flowers and things like that. I should probably take a photo and insert it here as well. But it was really nice. But I just thought I'd comment on the fact that I had my nails done, because normally when you see me working on my projects, I don't have my nails done. I used to start doing that at the start of my channel, but then I just have not had time as the kid has gotten older and she's a toddler now and just needs a lot of attention. So I basically have to make my videos pretty uh, short and quick. Off camera, I just wanted to share that I made this DIY paper wallet. I will do a flip through at a later point. I also made a I didn't make this pouch, but I had this pouch on hand. I thought, how can I incorporate this? Because I like the see-through mesh element. It might be in a tuck spot or something within the book or the book cover or something like that. But I made these DIY coins because I just got inspired to turn this not into only a junk journal, but also a manifestation tool for myself. And I'm looking forward to that. If you're interested in learning more about how I'm intending to use that, I probably won't be able to get around to doing that until this entire book is completed, so I could explain what my plans are for it and everything like that. But in any event, so here inside my DIY paper wallet, I made a little window for inserting a DIY faux ID with my title as The Cancer Dragon Slayer. I designed this entirely on Canva and then inserted my QR code from my beacons page, and then I printed it onto cardstock, and then I inked the edges in purple ink. Window does use plastic from packaging. Went ahead and tucked a bunch of these DIY business cards at the wellness center, and I was seeing a lot of the ladies, and they really enjoyed seeing my DIY shirts and things, and they were very interested, and decided to put these in these little slots I made for my DIY paper wallet. And then for giggles and for a little bit of extra embellishment, if you will, I added a tag at the very back. I made a pocket all the way to the right, and that's supposed to be for the DIY coins I made, the ones that are more flat. But I was worried that it would fall all the way to the bottom and I wouldn't be able to get it out, or at least it would be a pain to get it out. So I have a backup plan for that, which I still have to create, and I can show that to you guys in a later video. The way I built this, I went ahead and tucked some DIY cash that I made, also using the Cancer Dragon logo, and I think this is a lot of fun because I'm going to use this for my manifestation part of the tool or whatever. So I just kind of got inspired by using sort of like a template that reminds me of like the Monopoly money, and I didn't want it in the same colors, so I tried to semi-resemble a real money in the US, and I also gave it some vintage colors. And with the coins, I made 25-cent ones that are flat, but they're not totally flat because I decided to glue some craft foam in between, sandwiched from the back and the front, because I wanted it to be something that I could sort of, in a sense, play with, if that makes sense. I don't know if that does. But I might decide later to turn them into paper clips or something because I want them to be able to be interactive with the entire journal. I also decided to make these dollar coins because I saw that I had these mini clothespins and thought that they were perfect for a DIY clip. Okay, so without further ado, I thought I would go ahead and jump into doing one of the page spreads. FYI, I pre-made these pages off camera. I wanted everything to seem imperfect and I wanted it to all make some kind of sound. I don't want anything totally pristine. So I went ahead and took my editing manuscript that I hadn't thrown out because I can't recycle at home. So I decided to repurpose them into pages for this junk journal, and I also tea-dyed them off camera. And then I also tore them into pieces and things like that so I can get ruffled edges for also the base pages and things like that. I took a pad of paper that was larger than my book cover and I tore it down to size, and then I also glued these inked, or rather these torn book pages from my manuscript. And I put them into order based on how much of the tea dyeing process it got. Some of them were whiter than others, and I wanted it to be varied, and so I altered them. And to start off with the first book page spread, I decided to go ahead and watered down black paint I have on hand, and then do a wash on the entire piece and let it dry off camera. So off camera, I went into my Canva Pro account and designed this background as I wanted to look like an emblazed space. But since I couldn't print all the way to the edge, I decided to use them as a way to adhere to the background so I could create a pocket out of it. So first I chop off the bottom corners at a diagonal. Then I trim the very top completely clean. Then I fold the white edges inwards so that way they're towards the back, and that way you only see the flamed edges. And you can also glue those flaps to the background and create a pocket. But in the meantime, the square or rectangular shape itself looks too perfectly rectangular to me. And meanwhile, before I do anything with it, I go ahead and take the Phoenix card I designed on Canva as well, and I trim it down because I wanted to make sure the card would slide into this pocket well enough, because the width of it was actually the exact same, so I did need to trim off a little bit of it, which unfortunately meant that the wings got cut off. I could reprint it, but the problem is that I don't want to waste this cardstock I printed onto, so I'm just going to go with it. So that's where I take some watered down black paint and I just go over it, because I really don't want it to be just like a sudden block of bright colors of fire. And I also want it to look more realistic if I can, in my own way, but imperfectly realistic. I don't even know if that makes sense. But I go ahead and try to use the watered down black paint to get the edges, the sides and the bottom especially, and that way I can leave the top edge, because I actually want to use a lighter to kind of light it up and burn it a little bit. I think that would look really cool. Plus, it would give it a sort of an opening tab so that you could see there's something coming out from behind it. But I go ahead, meanwhile, I try to water down some black paint and cover up some of the brightness of this. And I also splatter on some black paint, but then I wasn't sure I liked that look too much. So I decided to create sort of watered down black flames or whatever, to little strokes of black flames to try to tone down some of that bright red and orange and yellow colors. Next, because I wanted to add some 3D elements to this page spread, I go ahead and grab these sunflowers that I had on hand from the Dollar Tree. They were originally intended for a previous project, but I ended up not needing all of it, and so I thought this would be a perfect way to add an element of 3D fire. So I go ahead and take one of the florals off, and I hot glue the materials to each other, the base background petals and the top covering petals, and I just glue the center of them together, and then I take my scissors and cut out each individual petals until all are cut out. Next, due to the lack of patience for drying time, I go ahead and grab my hole punch. I eyeball the center and I just snip at it, and I noticed it wasn't low enough, so I go further in and snip at it again. Then, because I wanted the burnt edges, I go ahead and take my lighter and just go ahead and burn the edges of that. And if you decide to do any part of this project where fire is involved, always make sure you are cautious about usage of fire and burning things. But I keep burning edges until I'm satisfied. Then, because I didn't want the flaps from the background to show through the fired or burned edges rather, I go ahead and snip them off at a diagonal to make sure they're hidden. So here I'm taking this Aqua Tombow Mono liquid glue, and I've never used it before, but I go ahead and open it up, and I decide to use the pen side, and I'm going to just go ahead and attach my individual petals in clusters strategically. Because right now my page spread looks relatively boring aside from the part where I'm going to end up gluing this pocket. And I need to make sure it looks cohesive and an actual page spread with the same color schemes. Then off camera, I go ahead and take another sunflower And the difference is this time I decided to cut them up into petals of like 3 per group so that I wouldn't have to glue individual strands, but also to add more pizzazz or more fire drama or something like that to these faux fire petals. And I go ahead and glue them along with the other petals where they're currently at, but I'm going to add more a little bit later on. Next, I go ahead and glue down the flaps. Then I go ahead and use a scrap bit of tea-dyed manuscript paper, but I use the back and I go ahead and ink out the exact phrasing that I want for this first page spread. And I just use a black ink pad, which apparently comes off looking faded, but it is what it is. Then I go ahead and tear the edges all around. I decided to give the overall page a bit of gold inking, so I go ahead and do that. Then I take vintage photo as the inking to the edges. Then I decide to glue it to another part of the back of this manuscript and tear that out so it's a little bit larger, almost kind of framing the original, and then ink those edges with my ground espresso archival ink. Then I realized it felt too large, decided to split it up by line, so I tore those up, inked them in ground espresso, decided to tear off the word burst to be by itself, and inked that up. And I decided to add faux flames to the sides as well, alternating from one side to the other with the word burst having flames on both sides. And finally, I just glued the last phrase of into a phoenix onto the pocket. And here's the final result. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Did you know that I am currently selling personally designed t-shirts based off of my upcoming book, The Cancer Dragon? Here I'm unboxing some orders from coworkers who I'm very grateful to for supporting my mission. If you were to ask me honestly, the idea for this logo came from my DIY Cancer Dragon wreath. My husband bought me a shirt once that said, "I kicked cancer's ass," but because of where I work, HR would have had a hissy fit over that, so I decided to design my own. To me, there's something to be proud of in becoming a Cancer Dragon Slayer, and I really hope my journey inspires you. I never planned on designing shirts for this, but as I kept creating and finding ways to express my life story, it just happened. I thought to myself, who else might love a shirt like this? On the back, the sayings are made for slayers, warriors, supporters, and even for honoring lost warriors. These shirts were created with all of you in mind, and I was so happy with the design that I wanted to make it available for anyone who feels connected to this journey. Okay, so here's the cover so far for my upcoming book. The basic gist of it is, I became diagnosed with stage 3 cancer, got pregnant during fertility treatments, refused to abort, despite my doctor's warnings that I'd die at birthing my child. For book updates or to support me, scan the code or click the link below. If you enjoyed this video, please smash that like button and subscribe. And until next time, we'll see you in the next one. Thanks for watching. Bye.